Okay, I'm Dylan Hawk with OMNews. I'm here with Brian Clincy. Thank you for being here, Brian. Would you mind telling folks a little bit about yourself before we begin?
Oh, no problem. My name is Brian Clincy. I've been a Muskegon resident for most of my life. Left and went to college and tried out some other places, but for most of my life I've been here. I've been really active in the community, trying to make, what brought me to be active in the community is being a father. And when my daughter was born, I found out, I really need to. I really see some problems around here where her future should and could be as bright as mine. So that's what, that's basically who I am. I'm a father. I'm a community activist. I'm a health coordinator. I'm an entrepreneur and an IT specialist.
Great. And what kind of work have you done in the community so far? I know you've done a lot.
Yeah, it's wow. It started with education. Like I said, my daughter pretty much got me started, and being where I wanted to. We started a PTO at Nelson Elementary School, and when we saw that the kids gravitated towards me, and they wanted to, I gravitated towards the kids, and I wanted to be the positive influence. I wanted to show them that somebody was that I was interested in not just my daughter's success, but their success, and that started the ball rolling. And then that's when I started becoming active in the neighborhood associations. I figured out that that's the closest thing to government that you have from being a citizen to being involved in your neighborhood association, and then higher. So I end up getting involved in my neighborhood association. From there, I got involved in these health community initiatives with the government, with the CDC, NACHO, a whole bunch of more acronyms, where they actually taught me more than I actually think I learned in college about system and system design and environmental changes and policy changes that make lasting effects. So that was my start, being involved in the Healthy Communities Initiative. I got to meet a lot of good people, a lot of people that wanted to see some serious changes. So we started a garden. From there, I got into like a garden community. From there, we started working with the health department to get not better health, but better access to food in the community. By getting the word out through the health department. So I worked with the health department. From there, I also, during the same time doing the neighborhood association thing, I started coaching soccer and basketball, where I got to, really get hands-on. Like, it was the other side of education, where kids felt like the school part wasn't them, but the athletic part was them. Mm-hmm. So my thing was to show them that they go a hand side to side. So I met a lot of good kids and got a lot of good kids on my team from coaching, and those are my kids that really look out and try to keep them active. Mm-hmm. In the community. Doing, we do parties not parties in the park, but we do like little field days in the park. This year we'll be doing tours downtown Muskegon. Just all type of stuff to keep the kids positive, and to show them that they have opportunities and there's things to do here in Muskegon. But nobody's gonna do them for you. You have to kind of create them on your own. So that's one of the things I'm involved in. Throughout the health department, I got involved with farm to school. I also got involved with the Muskegon transition, and from Muskegon transition, became a part of the 1,000-man walk. Wow, it's a lot of stuff. I don't want
the 1,000-men walk grow out of the transition movement, or?
Well, it was one of those things where it was separate. They came separate.
Did you meet some folks through the transition movement that later?
No, we actually brought the transit. It was Chris Bedford, the late Chris Bedford, and Spencer, and some of the other farm to school people that brought the Muskegon transitional the transitional model to Muskegon.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was brought by another branch, but it's all involved in the whole system.
Yeah.
It was one of the core systems in place for the 1,000-man walk.
Okay. And you said your daughter's 12, 13 years old?
My daughter's 14.
14 years
Yes,
old. So
high
you've been
school
doing these
freshman.
things, you've been involved for a number of years at this point.
Yeah, I've been coaching for 8 years. We do the PTO, and I'm still a part of the parent organization at Nelson now. For over, that was when she was in 3rd grade. She's in 9th, so 6 years. Been working with the garden movement for the last 3 years. Wow. We started the Muskegon transition the last 3 years. It's just been a whirlwind. So I've been out here doing and stomping for a long time. Before that, even in high school, at the Big Reds, we had a little group of people that went down and put a presentation to some of the people in the city to say, hey, young people need things to do. And they did the typical city thing. They said, well, we don't have any money, and what can you bring to the table thing. So I set up a meeting with them even back in high school to see if we could get some stuff rolling for the youth in the youth in the city actually.
That brings up an interesting question. As you've been doing this over the years and the economy's gotten worse and worse, have you seen programs for children start to be cut or dropped altogether in the community? Or?
Oh yeah, the first thing in the city that they've done is they kind of threw, and they kind of threw the bus in at all the summer programs. That they didn't get rid of all of them, but they changed dramatically, and the effect that they had has changed dramatically. But we've seen budget cuts cut the recreational program completely out of the city budget. Period, where we don't even have a recreational department anymore. We've seen the privatization of city parks, where basically a city park is sponsored by an organization and they pretty much run the park, which they give you, it's tax dollars supported, but yet you have to make sure you go through them and pull out city permits, and basically they charge you money to rent the parks. So like if I wanted to have a basketball tournament at a park that I helped design down here at Smith Ryerson, that was another thing. We helped design the park at Smith Ryerson, the new design of the park last year, 2 years ago with the neighborhood association. We had active feedback in that program. We also worked with Wilmsford Dick with the water restoration, where they wanted with the construction that they're doing with Rudderman Creek, getting the flow of water the way it used to be, besides all these man-made dams and objects. We kind of had a little word in there where we said, we're the voice of the community. They wanted to cut off Yuba Street, and we had to let them know that Yuba Street was really important to us because it's only 2 ways in and out this neighborhood, and that's one of them. So downtown. So it's been a whirlwind. I met a bunch of people. I met a bunch of people that wanted to do things. I met a bunch of people that said they wanted to do things and didn't do things. But budget has cut a whole lot of things as far as the Achieve. That's the healthier communities. But Achieve was basically cut out of the county budget at the health department, and it was cut out of the county budget at the health department and the city. When they cut leisure services and the recreational department, they basically cut the program at the recreational level. At the city level too. So Achieve is basically run by us, the volunteers, me and Spencer, and basically the kids are who's left running that healthier community project. But we still working.
Fantastic. And what do you think about the fiasco going on at the in the Heights now, in the school district? And there's talk that the school could close as of March or so.
Yeah, it's a mess, and it's really a mess because people fail to make hard decisions. Much like I understand that they had cut the budget, and so they cut recreational services. Muskegon's the school board really didn't cut expenses, and they really didn't do their citizens or their students justice by just prolonging, making it a snowball effect to the point where it's an avalanche right now. I think that it was a lack of leadership there where they could have got in front of it. I think the city of Muskegon Heights really has a PR problem because it's not a bad city. The people are not bad. They're not crooks. It's just that the faith in the school board is totally gone. I got a nephew and a niece that goes to that school district, which I'm concerned about, and I don't want to see it erased. But at the same time, I don't see dumping good money into a bad situation at the same time. I think that leadership and the people that let leadership get away from doing their job was to serve those students. I think that was the biggest problem. I think that they definitely need to get back to the basics, make sure all the students are taken care of, and they're learning as most as they can. Right now is a fiasco because who has faith? I mean, I don't even know if my school is going to be open, to March. So I don't know. I mean, just think of a senior in high school right now. Say, hey, you guys got my transcripts, and and I want to go to college. And what's going to happen in the last 2 months of my senior year? I mean, it's a travesty. And so, do they get out now, and then you have a total devastation of a total devastation of a school district? I mean, you got to do what's best for your kids. So, I mean, that's.
You think people will be fleeing the district?
If it was me and my kids, yes, I would be leaving. And I'm not saying that I'm not saying that I would leave and not continue to fight for the situation, but you can't experiment with your kids. They gotta have the education that they deserve, and there's no way I'm gonna leave that to chance. So I mean, what I would do is I probably would take my kids out of the system and go to one of the neighboring systems. But I would make sure that the city and the school board understands where I'm coming from, and we will work together. I would have to figure out what happened and why it happened, and make sure that this wouldn't happen again.
You think if the school system shuts down, or that they will eventually open it back up, or that's it, it's gone? It's like anything else. It's a lack of confidence in the situation. Right now too, it's so far gone. It's hard to bring it back. It's like, okay, we need to do something else. I mean, this is when the new ideas need to start really rejuvenating. And I don't think once you do once a school system goes down, I mean the pillar of American society. I mean, that's what. Public school, having that great opportunity, once that leaves, there's no coming back. Yeah.
I mean, not coming back the same way. It'll be different and vastly overhauled. But that's the only way I can see it. And I mean, it really would leave a big void in the community, because now you have a whole city that doesn't have a school system.
With a big, brand new school sitting there.
But now that school is going to be used one way or the other. I'm not sure how, but it's going. I mean, you can't not let that building not be used with all that technology and that new facility. You can't not let that building be used.
Job center.
Yeah, job center. I mean, even a charter school could go in there and take it over. I mean, it's a bunch of stuff that could happen that I'm hoping will happen with that situation. Everything happens for a reason, and sometimes you have to tear it all the way down and build it back better. Maybe it'll be what I would really hope that they would do. I really hope that the Muskegon Public Schools and Orchard View and the Heights just combined, and made it out to be what they call a magnet school. Muskegon could be the Muskegon campus as it is right now could be the International Baccalaureate. I get it kind of tongue twisted, but the IB program that's strong at Muskegon right now, that could be the Muskegon campus. They could have healthcare like a healthcare system at the city of Muskegon Heights. I mean, at the Heights High School, where that would be geared towards those people that want to work in the health center, health sector. So it would be pre-med, nursing, things of that nature geared to that school. And then Orchard View could be an advanced manufacturing high school where, now that, manufacturing has taken a big twist, and, none of the jobs where you own a line, flipping apart and doing this, they will have the robotics, and they will have like the visual, for advanced manufacturing. I think that would serve the citizens. I mean, that would serve. We really need to look at our education system as a whole and kind of revamp it.
Yeah.
And I mean a true revamp it, not just saying let's throw more dollars at it, because throwing more dollars at something doesn't necessarily mean that it'll work. But as I look at the school system from the inside out, I understand that it's a business, and I'm not sure if all these parties, you have what are those unions, like you have the janitorial unions, you have the cook and the teachers union. I'm not sure if their focus and the administration, I'm not sure if their focus on educating the kids as much as their focus is on keeping everything that they have, all the benefits, we need to get back into that focus and get educational back from this linear basis where I tell you what it is and you recite what I tell you, and make it a more thinking process, and stop hiding behind these, we have special needs students. I'm a firm believer in, everybody can learn something. And if you learn not to touch a hot iron, if you can actually learn not to touch a hot iron, I mean, kids can learn. I mean, that's the basis of learning. Say, it's hot, don't touch it. So, I mean, if you can learn that, there's nothing else you can't learn.
Great, yeah, and I know you've spent most of your life, if not all of your life, here in Muskegon. How do you think Muskegon today compares to the Muskegon you knew in your childhood growing, as you grew up?
Oh, Muskegon today is definitely more segmented than what it used to be. And when I say segmented, I'm not just talking about the government, the city governments or whatever. I'm talking about people. People have their own bubble nowadays, where they don't necessarily feel like they're part of, like they're part of any structural. They're not. It's not a community anymore. It's a bunch of people that's doing their own thing. Like, for instance, when I was young, if I was running out in the street, my neighbor could tell me, "Hey, you better get out the street." We don't have that anymore. It's their problem. Don't worry about them. It's their problem. But if you see something going on wrong, it's your responsibility to make those right. And so, when I say segmented, people are so involved in their own self, in their own conscious being, they're not paying attention to what's going on around them. And so it's a lot of disenfranchised people here because of that, and it's massive divides in between the actual city. Like, Muskegon Avenue divides East Muskegon and West Muskegon, and that divide is strong because one side is saying it's not that bad, and one side is saying you're killing me. It's really. I really feel like the town is in that stage. It's a lot of the town that's in the stage where it don't matter, and that's when it's dire, when people just say.
Yeah, and that brings me to another question, actually. And the question of apathy that we talked about before, how do we reach people who, even the people who are most affected, aren't necessarily standing up and vocalizing themselves right now? Do you have any ideas on, or techniques you've tried to reach people in the past that have worked or not worked, or any ideas of how to start gaining more of the community to stand together? And
that's my biggest issue right now, because I like, the only thing that I think right now, everybody's like in that it's bad, but at least I'm living, at least I'm carrying on. This, that kind of like sedated, I feel no pain.
Mm-hmm.
I feel as less pain as possible, and I think that until we gotta keep. Well, I just tell you, the Governor Snyder is doing a good job of it, because he's looking at things in a problematic way and saying, okay, let's cut it. And then that's when people say, oh, wait, did I just feel something? Somebody just pinched me? And it's waking them up. But it's waking them up. I guess we got to get people mad. I guess we got to go Fox News on them and just say, just tell people, hey, you're nothing, you mean nothing. I mean, instead of being a nice way of doing things, like people are nice way of doing things right now is people kind of suggest that you're into it, that your input is needed, but in all actuality they're going to do what they want to do. So they sedating you with this, yes, we're listening, we just try to do better, and yet they're doing exactly what they wanted to do in the first place. So I like, case in point, like at the school board, you have people that at Muskegon School Board, you have people that that are upset at the way that their kids are getting educated, upset at how they kick out people, but instead of them honestly taking a look at our policies and procedures to say, okay, are we putting the student first? They reflect back to those same policies to be able to do business as usual.
Right.
The city, which OM did a really good job of saying, hey, let's not blow up everything in the city and release whatever toxins is in there or whatever. But they continue to say, oh, well, that's the best way to do it. They said it was the best way to do it, so it was their way of saying we're gonna do it the cheapest way possible. And only one city commissioner said, okay, hold on, let's rethink this.
And he's one of the newest ones there.
Yeah. And so it's like, it's one of those things where I hate to give it like I was talking to you. If we got all these cigarette smokers that's waiting for that last, for that diagnosis to say, hey, you got 2 minutes to live, before they say, okay, I quit. Mm-hmm. Now we have to make them say, we have to put the situation dire. The situation has to be dire for them to make that change, and that's the sad part about it. We have to, I'm not saying craft is, we have to do Fox News. We have to make it look as bad as it's supposed to be, but you have to wake people up. I feel like I'm in the Matrix saying, hey, wake up, and oh, I'm fine,
Yeah.
So no, you're not fine. What you don't see is you don't see the wool being pulled over your eyes. Here, take this off.
Yeah, we've been slowly conditioned.
Yes.
To accept it. Things getting worse and worse and worse each step. As smart as man is, we don't have enough foresight to look into the future enough to see that we're not living in a sustainable manner. So, which actually brings me to another question regarding your involvement with the transition movement. Could you tell viewers a little bit about the transition movement and what led you to get involved with that?
All right. Well, the transition movement is a movement away from what is it? Phosphate fuels.
Mm-hmm.
Fuels. It's a movement to get away from there by doing more things locally, and basically. How I got involved in it is that right now we're a consumer-based society where it's cheaper for me to buy a new printer than get a small pack of ink. So we'll throw it away and get a new printer, and that's not necessarily how things should work, but we starting to go out cheap. Well, gas is cheap, so we can do these things.
Mm-hmm.
And like I was telling you earlier, waste is waste. All right, let's not waste anything, and cheap you end up paying for it later. So let's look at the real costs and things. All right, now the way things are right now, the transition is saying that fuel cost was low, so we were able to afford to have these massive machines do all this work for us. So we were able to afford to get food from one side of the country all the way to this side of the country with not cheaply. Okay, now we have to take a hard look at that and say, okay, fossil fuels are not limitless. No resource is limitless.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we use those resources to the best of our ability? And that's what the transition movement is. It's saying, okay, let's start producing things locally and make sure we're using our resources the best way possible. Because you can't create energy. You know, you can't create energy. You destroy one form of energy to make another energy. So let's do as little destroying as we possibly need. Yes, we're still going to use oil. Yes, we're still going to use gas. But as little gas as we possibly need. Start producing some of this. Start producing our food, which is another energy. Start producing our food with as less energy consumption as possible. Start doing stuff locally, which, you know, we got away from doing stuff locally, so big businesses can do what? They can go around the world pillaging whatever village or whatever county or whatever state or whatever country they need to get what they need to drain the resources out of those countries and put back crap.
And how far do you think Muskegon is from becoming a transition town?
Oh, we're a long way away from it. We're a long way away from it, but it's a start. We got to start. We have this Muskegon Sustainability Group that meets the last, I want to say, is that the last Tuesday? The last Tuesday of the month. I have to check my schedule. Last Tuesday of the month, we have the Muskegon Sustainability. So it's people that's really looking at sustainability here. We have what they call blue water economy, because it's starting to make sense to people now. It's starting to make economic sense, and what I found is that when you make an economical case for things, that's when stuff starts to happen. But it's starting to make sense. So we have blue water economy that's saying, okay, we have a vast amount of water here, but we don't want to contaminate that. We want that's not something that's limitless. You know, that's not something that we can just say, oh, let's put these chemicals together and dump it in the water because they'll dilute it and we won't have to worry about it. No, we have to really look at these resources that we have and find out if we're using it for best practices, and that's what some of these groups are doing. Like we have Goodwill that's recycling electronics now. I mean, really think about all this electronic stuff that you throw away. Now you have a venue for not just throw them away and, you know, and fill up a landfill with them, where the plastics and the motherboards and everything won't necessarily biodegrade in our lifetime or our kids' lifetime. So I mean, let's use everything that we have and use it down to the bone. One thing that, you know, was in the transition that's kind of into the transition is that we need closed loop systems instead of these open loop systems. Where in nature, you know, we lose leaves, the leaves go down and they nurture the soil for more trees to grow. In nature, when a dog or a rabbit goes and does what it has to do, or a bear goes and does what it has to do, that's cultivated into the soil and used as actually feed for the soil and the worms and stuff like that. So we have to start looking at closed loop systems where we can say, okay, these work together, all right? Because we can't keep, you know, bottling up our water and sending it out and thinking that we're going to have forever for it to come back. I mean, it doesn't happen like that. You can't destroy it. You can't destroy water and think that, you know, it's going to come back.
Very true. Yeah, and earlier you mentioned that once you were involved in the transition movement and you were later became instrumental in or at least part of helping the Thousand Men March take place. How many of those have there been? Has there just been the one so far, or could you talk about that?
It's just been the one. Now, the Thousand Man Walk was a really good idea from a guy that had just got out of prison and saw all the killing and all the shootings and stuff that was happening in Muskegon in that last summer. And he said, hey, I want to do something. And that was an empowerment movement for him. He said, I wanted to do something, and I was asked to join with my logistics, some of the expertise that I learned with dealing with the city and the county, some of the people that I knew dealing with some of the real people that would get stuff done, and it was basically saying, okay, we as a people, and that's why I was really proud of that. That's why I'm really proud of that movement. It's still going on, but we as a people need to get up and do something ourselves to stop the violence. That's when we called on grandmas to say, okay, grandmas, go back to the old school grandmas and say, hey, you know not to walk on my lawn. I mean, it's these things that we've lost, that we've had, and through this consume, microwave, me mentality, we've lost. And I think that the Thousand Man Walk movement, we didn't call it a march because everybody wants to march or whatever. It was a walk, and we walked 5.5 miles through these neighborhoods that's supposed to be dangerous, and said that we're not going to take it anymore. And we made people sign pledges, and then those pledges, it was a couple action items in those pledges that really kind of was the foundation of the Occupy Wall Street movement, because it says, okay, we're going to do business locally. We're going to accept responsibility not only for ourselves, but for our fellow man. So a Thousand Man Walk was the real idea around let's get up and do something for ourselves and be a part and say, okay, I'm not going to wait on them to send me some help. I am going to help myself as much as I possibly can help myself, and that's my mantra. All right, if there's anything that people can take from me, is that, hey, I'm not cooking what you feeding me. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna find something for me to eat, and I'm gonna do the best that I can do on my own before I need that help. Before I come to you and say, hey, Dylan, do you have a couple dollars I can borrow because I'm really hungry? I'm gonna try to mop the floors. I'm gonna try to shovel. I'm gonna try to rake. I'm gonna try to do everything in my power before I can say, hey, I need some help, because I know at one point that's all we have. We only have us, we can't count on the outside. We can't count on the federal government. All the things that they said that the state wouldn't do before, with they wouldn't take over a city. Oh no, they wouldn't tell you that you could. They wouldn't tell you that you could, that your vote don't mean anything. But in all actuality, they're doing that. And what are we going to do? What are we going to do? We can't wait till after the fact. Hey, they took over our city. Yeah, bum. I mean, look at the people in Ben Harbor. You wait till after the fact and then you protest. No, you start your action before it gets to that point. And that's where we need, and it was holding our city officials. One of the other actions was holding our city officials and elected officials to holding them to the ground. Actually backing up and actually making them do what they're supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be helping our community. We have that disconnect right now where, hey, the city gonna do what they want to do. No, they work for me. I pay taxes. And a lot of us don't have the attitude, and that's what we want to promote with the Thousand Men Walk. And I know some people got offended because it was 1,000 men, but it wasn't just men. It was just saying that, hey, men have to step up in the community. And that's why we named it the 1,000 Men. But that won't be the next walk. The next walk won't be the 1,000 Men. It'll be the 1,000 Community Walk, or it'll be something like that where we include more than they were included. But we were speaking specifically to the men in the community. Say, let's do something. So that's what that was all about. And that's what that was. I got to work on it, and I didn't get. It's crazy because you can polarize things here in Muskegon. When At that time, I think I had a lot of people that I had irritated because, I don't know if it's censored now, but I smell BS, and I don't deal with BS. If you're gonna BS me, you can go somewhere else. So I had a lot of people that I had called out and maybe got on their nerves or whatever, or maybe picked a bone with. So I chose not to be in the forefront, but a supporter.
Mm-hmm.
And we were able to we were able to pull it off. And I seen in a lot of people's eyes where they were proud that they walked 5.5 miles on a hot summer day with water being brought to us by different organizations. We got to work with different organizations, and organizations said, okay, we see you and we'll support you 100%. And they didn't try to come and take us over. So, I mean,
that's great.
That's what it is. Now, it was a point where we felt, now, with that idea being so great, I feel like we let some people down with not following up. See, that's why I like OM, because OM has been continually following up. When they get something accomplished, they're doing the next thing. They hear something, they're on it. Not like Jesse Jackson, on it and then leave it. Or Al Sharpton, where you get on it, make it an issue, and then leave it. You get on it and you say, okay, progress. Oh, this is going on, progress. It's what we in the community have to do is to stop doing the easy work, and then doing the easy work and then slacking on the hard work. And I know people's schedules get conflicted and twisted and whatever, but following through is where the real work starts. And we didn't follow through as much as we should have with that. And next time, I know the follow through is what I'll get funded before I get anything else.
And what kind of follow through do you have in mind?
Well, we had over 100 people that was interested in doing something right away. And I thought that we have a pretty good, they call them cash mobs now, but what I wanted to show was the economical impact that you going to dinner or you going to lunch one day and spending $5 would do to a business. And so that's a cash mob now, but that was one of the things I discussed with them, that I discussed with the group, that we wanted to, we had all those people and we don't know what they wanted to do. So we needed to do an inventory of all the resources, all those resources that those people brought, and say, okay, how can we do, what's the best effect that we can do with these resources that we now have. So that's where I think the follow through really failed, because we got all these people information, and we were able to, we did get some of them to mentor, which was great, but we needed to create an assessment where we can say, okay, we have all these people here, and this guy's good at computers, this guy has a connection at this plant, this guy, and kind of do an inventory and say, okay, how can we have the best impact with the least amount of resources? And that's what we need to do. That's what we need to do. Because me, myself, I want to do something radical. I want to do something. I wanted to buy a city block in the Heights and say, okay, let us show you how we would do it if we got to develop a block in the Heights.
Mm-hmm. Well, that'd be a fabulous thing to do.
I thought so. I thought so.
So since you mentioned it, actually, let me jump out here for 1 second. I'll edit this just to make sure we still have tape going here. I would hate for us to do all this and then realize we're running low on tape. Okay. All right, great. So, okay, so since you mentioned the Occupy Wall Street movement, what are your feelings about the Occupy Wall Street movement?
I feel like it was needed. It's been needed. The one thing that it really brought to mind was, like, now white people understand what's going on, because it's always been that way for us. It's always been like, oh, they smash and grab. It's always been, it's been a lot of, my grandmother had an ideal about a whisk, and she submitted that to, I think at the time, I forgot who she submitted it to, and she was upset when she found out that, hey, they used her design, and she didn't get anything for it. So we the people that I know, the people that struggle through this, through this economy, it's always felt like it's been unfair. It's been unfair. The rich get richer and the poor get poorer. But you know, past the civil rights movement, where it was that dramatic, where it was no black people making, you know, that type of money, and no black people, you know, it was that real divide. After civil rights, you have some black people doing well. So what does that say to people? That said to people that, hey, if you really work hard, you can achieve like these other people. Well, that's not it. And we understood that. That's not it. We work hard all the time. But you have to be in the right place at the right time. It's not just working hard. It's not 90% of it is not what you do. It's who you know. All right. Now those affluent people that, you know, that made their way up to the top, now we felt like they've been trying to crush us for years. You know, trying to crush everything. Take the good ideas that we have away and use it and profit, and we get the scraps. So the way I felt about the Occupy Wall Street movement was, wow, we have a lot in common. You know, we've been having a lot in common. This is what this is how it should have been going down. Why did it have to get this great of a divide before the other, you know, we only represent 11%, so the other 88% found out that this is how it goes down. It's a land of opportunity, but for a chosen few. And you know, and I felt like that energy is good. Now we're gonna make some movement, and I mean the fact that they stayed and that civil disobedience, and that's the civil rights all over again. All right, like Martin Luther King said, you know, it's cruel justice to tell somebody to pick them up by their boots when they don't have boots. Mm-hmm. You know, that's cruel. I feel like that's like let them eat cake. Well, you know what? We have America, this great land of opportunity, have to give people an opportunity. And what's going on is that we have a bunch of systems that's failing. 50% of the kids don't make it out of high school. Mm-hmm. So what does that tell you? At some point, it's a disconnect in what's actually being done and what's actually being said. All right. Jail populations through the roof. What's that tell you? That maybe that these laws that's been cruel and unjust for years need to be reviewed. And need to be. I still don't understand, and it's still unfair to a lot of people I know that I can get pulled over for driving with license suspended, and you can get pulled over driving with license suspended. I'll go to jail. They might tell you, hey, we'll suspend this if you keep your head above water for 2 months because the prosecutor knows your family or somebody spoke up for you in the community. Mm-hmm. You know, and Occupy Wall Street, I felt like they got it. They said, okay, enough is enough. All right, let's share. Let's do something. Let's be somebody. This other 99%, we represent a power that, you know, we might not have all the money, but hey, we got all the people. I mean, 99% versus 1%, 99 gonna win all the time. You know, you might get some people that can stand up for a while, but they will soon crumble. Mm-hmm. You know, and I thought Occupy Wall Street was better than rebellion. You know what I'm saying? And that's where, you know, and that's what, you know, those are the principles I like. It was like, okay, let's do something together.
And what do you think prompted Occupy the Hood to begin?
Oh, well, Occupy the Hood was a sound idea because, like, I just tell you, it's a lot of distrust between the races that they don't want to talk about. Now, as they see the same thing, but they see it differently. Okay, Now we see stuff on TV, and you have where it's to sustain black people ain't smart, or non-white people ain't smart, or it gets to be a complex where it's been ingrained so much that even I mean, it shocks people to say, "Oh, you're intelligent." I mean, it shocks people when that's the norm. That's the norm, and it's some real disconnects. I mean, racism goes both ways, and I think that Occupy the Hood was a buffer between Occupy Wall Street and Occupy the Hood, because they some black people don't trust white people, just like some white people don't trust black people. So instead of just saying, okay, we're gonna join this movement, we say, hey, we can join. We can have these two blocks that work together, and basically it's a label. It's a label
Right.
of how we work together. Occupy the Hood got a good working relationship with Occupy Wall Street, so it was a area where they could work together and make things happen. And that's what Occupy the Hood Muskegon. That's what the dream was for me, to make a platform where we can kind of consolidate where we can say, hey, these are the things that we have in common. How can we help each other? And go from there. Now, what it end up being is totally different than what, the same thing is going on with the divide and conquer. I used to think I was racist because I used to say, I'm going for the black quarterback, I'm going for the black coach. But I'm just an underdog. I just like going for the underdog. So, but we still have people that feel like that.
Mm-hmm.
That feel like, they, both sides of, and I don't want to keep that attitude alive. I want to kill that. I want to dismiss that with all prejudice. I just want to. If it's something that's dividing the races, I would like to crush that. And when Occupy the Hood Muskegon wasn't acting to create that platform, it started to make it divisive, and that's if anybody knows what I stand for, is to say, hey, look, we all in this together. The last thing I need to do is make you not like me, because that's what they want to do.
Right.
That's what's wrong with that segmented Muskegon. That's what's wrong. You got Northern Shores trying to provide. Actually, I think we have too many cities in Muskegon, because you have Northern Shores, which trying to keep their property value up by being Northern Shores. You have Roosevelt Park, which is only a 1 mile radius.
Tiny, yeah.
Yeah, that's only fueling these separate divides. And I'm better than you because of the name of where I live at. Instead of just saying, hey, let's share these resources. But what people don't like is the same thing with the 99%. Why would I share with you when I'm just going to be the one losing? Okay, and that's what the billionaires think. Why would I share with you when I'm just losing? All right, they thinking, hey, I'm not benefiting from this. If I share with you, I worked hard for my money. They feel like a lot of people, they work hard for that. But what they don't understand is it's not about one particular person or one particular family or one particular entity rising above everybody else. At one point, you have to say, hey, it's best for the community. And that's what we lack in Muskegon.
Mm-hmm.
We lack in Muskegon the ability to say, hey, I'm going to do what's best for Muskegon. Take me out of the equation. Some of these nonprofits here, they should be working to eliminate themselves, but yet they're working to exist.
Right, yeah.
And that's the problem. Look, be who you are. If you're here to help the community at all costs. Don't help the community to help yourself. Now, I'm not saying you can't do both. But what I'm saying is that you have to hold true to your virtues. If you can have 80% of the people help feed themselves versus you giving 40% of people food and 40% of the people feeding themselves, what's a better alternative? See, because if I feed you, you're my slave because you have to come back to me when you're done and you don't have it and you're destitute.
Mm-hmm.
But if I show you how to feed yourself, that's a big difference. But then you'll need me. So now, what am I reduced to? You know what? It's okay for nonprofits to go away. That's what you're here for. If you're an educational nonprofit and you educate everybody to the point where, hey, they don't need you anymore, that's fine.
Success.
That's success. Some of these mission statements, they're not really working on success, they're working on mitigating success. Just like hospitals. I thought hospitals was here to help was healthcare.
Exactly.
They're not.
No.
They're here to manage diseases. A big difference.
Yeah.
Healthcare is not insurance. Please, people, stop calling healthcare insurance. It's not insurance. That's risk management. Insurance is risk management. And it blows my mind at you talking to insurance companies to manage healthcare. No, you talk to healthcare to manage healthcare. Straight to the point.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I know a lot of people don't like our governor, but like he's been problematically looking at things and not, emotionally involved in these decisions. When he said that we were kicking everybody off welfare for after 4 years, that law been on the books. We just been extending. It's a federal law. We just been extending. All right. At one point, you got to say, hey, I'm only enabling people. Now, we're in a society right now where they don't want to feel pain. Look, you can go and get whatever medication you want. At one point in time, you're going to have to feel pain to understand what it feels to feel like good.
But do you feel that Michigan currently has the infrastructure to give people opportunities to move forward without assistance? I mean, if they lose their assistance and there's nothing out there for them to pick themselves up with, what do?
I understand that question, and I think that Michigan does not have the proper support. But that's my biggest heartache. You don't have the proper support. You picked the worst time ever to kick them off.
Mm-hmm.
But at sometimes it's the darkest night before you get the brightest day.
I hope so.
So we have to deal with it. When the money isn't there, it's not there. So, but at the same time, you can't go and spend that surplus that we have. Why do you need more cops when you've been making do with the same amount of cops now? Won't you put that towards something else, or say that for the rainy day fund? I mean,
like Muskegon's new jail.
Yeah. Well, see, and then I'm kind of conflicted about that because I think that it's deplorable. The jail. I think the jail is deplorable. I think you can go to jail and get sick and die and not even be guilty. So that's deplorable. But do I want to pay for it? Hell no.
I've seen the arguments in the paper that people are suggesting that they intentionally let the jail become more and more decrepit so that they would be forced to build a new one. I don't know if that's true or not, but in these times people have become more and more cynical. I find it pretty easy to believe.
You know what? And that probably is the truth. And I feel like that because, I didn't say it, but I understand. I mean, because that's the way things happen now. It has to be. That's that time where you say people have to wake up. I mean, like that's why I said the Fox Newsroom. Mm-hmm. That's a prime example of Fox News right there. They made the situation dire, so you have to address it, and you have to address it now. But it's me myself. I would hate to go to jail and then get sick and die. Because of the situation where you got bacteria upon build up, and and it's a morale issue it's a morale issue, and you would hate to rally a county around a jail, but they need to do something, and it needs to be the best case scenario for everybody, not just. I mean, what needs to happen is they need to have a drug court that's actually accurate. They need to prosecutors need to really try to get. This is one of the things, chicken before the egg, where I think if the prosecutors was actually in the school, seeing these kids before they actually convicted the crimes or whatever, or actually came out, like I invited them to a basketball game, I never got a response for it, but if they actually came out and got to know the kids, like, people get to, I mean, you would think that they're not bad people. They just gotten caught up in a bad decision or the bad circumstance. And I'm not, everybody has to get punished, but I think that we need to get behind the 8 ball before we start seeing the jail increase its number. I don't think that we should build a bigger jail. I think you should build a better jail, but not necessarily a bigger jail.
And what becomes of our old jail? And will they just keep operating that and have 2 jails and have more room to put people in jail?
And see, that's
something to consider.
That's all
too.
the questions. That's all the questions. But I really just I know OM has been a little bit civil unrest, and I hate for you guys to go to jail and then come out with some. Funky old
TV or
something. And that's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I don't want to spend the money. It's better money spent. I think that if they set $1 million aside, I think that if the politicians did their job and said, look, this is what we're working with. If they got out in front of the issue and said, look, this is what we're working with. This is what's happening. This is why we at this situation, and this is what we're gonna do. If I felt really informed about the situation, maybe I feel different. But the county and the city does what they want to do, and they tell you gonna eat it. No, I don't have to, and they don't like that.
Yeah. Well, quickly, because we're running out of time here, I have 2 more questions. One is, one's a comment almost in regard to the follow-through you talked about earlier and Occupy the Hood. When I first saw Occupy the Hood, I was in New York, and they came out of Harlem, and I was just thrilled to see them.
Came out of Detroit, right?
Well, the group I saw came out of Harlem.
Okay.
And
it was founded by the people in Detroit.
Well, fantastic.
Yeah.
Michigan.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the first time I saw it, though, was in Zuccotti Park, and there was some folks from Harlem. And as soon as I saw it, it didn't seem divisive to me at all. I was like, all right, because... as you said, to me, it's not we're separate. It's hey, this is another section of the 99% representing here and working with everybody. And it didn't feel divisive. Yeah, and so I feel very much like we're partners, and not even that's the wrong word either, because we're not separate. We're together, even though some people are calling it not a sub movement, because that sounds. The notes lower, but a side or sister movement. But I think it's really the same thing, and I think it's really great. But I do understand the apprehension there of wanting to represent on your own as well, because of the follow-through we talked about. Now, there's more and more talk about this being a movement that's going to save the middle class, which is really troublesome to me, because I as an occupier am not doing this to save the middle class. I'm doing this to save the middle class, and especially the poor. And I don't want to see the poor and the disenfranchised ostracized from this movement and make it into something like we're trying to save the middle class. This is about everybody, and I could see certainly a fair case for having a certain amount of apprehension in regard to the Occupy Wall Street movement, being a movement that once it gets thrown a few bones, enough people will be satisfied and go back home, and it will fizzle out. Meanwhile, the hood will still be just as bad as it's always been, and will be left on its own again. It's something I really want to fight against, and I was curious to your thoughts on that. I mean, is that perhaps some reason for...
and that's exactly it. You remember when I said about the civil rights movement and how the civil rights appeased some black people, and some black people got to be really well. But that's exactly what happens when they succeed enough to take care of what because they're only angry now, and we look at it as the same situation as we would look at it in our neighborhood. We only get angry when we have a police brutality, and then after that, it's like, okay, it's back to the norm. I'm cool with back to the norm, but no worse than back to the norm, all right? So that's one of the things where, that's one of the things where I say Occupy the Hood too, where it's like, okay, well, it's not just for middle class white people, it's actually, and that's why I said it wasn't I shouldn't have said sub movement. It's like you said, it's a movement it's a company movement to say, okay, now y'all have y'all concerns, we have our concerns. Let's meet both. You know, let's meet both, and that's what I think. That's what my dream was for Muskegon, Occupy the Hood Muskegon, because that right there. And then we already have so many other groups too. All we need to do is a platform where you say, okay, this is how we plug in easy. Okay, these are the things that we're doing. How can you help us? These are the things you're doing. How can we help? I mean, not separate, but a complementary.
Yes, yeah. There's Occupy the Barrio and all kinds of Occupies out there. If we all latch onto each other, we can be life rafts for each other to keep each other afloat and make it through this, you know. And I really think that that's the way to go. And I hope that Occupy the Hood Muskegon comes back. And anything that Occupy Muskegon can do to work with Occupy Muskegon the Hood, you know, we'd always be happy to do so.